just have to move around tile to tile, checking every single one where you only poppins. Finally, only when you max out Feebas's beauty, you get your Milotic, which is like such a terrible trade-off. I can't believe I just did this for the second time fight the TM for Flash Cannon. With Stab, this is an incredibly powerful move. And because all of Candace's Pokemon are weak to it, it's not exactly a drawback that we lock ourselves in. After being Sneasel, we're simply faster than both Piloswine and Abomasnow, which get obliterated in one hit each. Frostlass does outspeed, which also left me poisoned. Abba then immediately fell to poison after flying up high. Having lost my only flying type, I knew I needed to get revenge. And taking out the other Galactic Commanders was the easy part. All I did was give the choice specs to Sue Strumming and spam Surf for the victory. But the Commanders were never who I was worried about. We now left the comfortable mid-game and entered into the nightmare endgame. And even though we have a great type advantage against Cyrus's lead Houndoom, he immediately gets a critical hit to start off the fight. This really stinks, and I know Sustrumming always does, but this basically means I can't use my Milotic to tank hits in the future. At least I'm able to knock out Houndoom, which sends in Gyarados. And this Gyarados is a lot stronger than Wakes. For starters, this thing actually has a crazy, which is why this fight seriously caught me by surprise. After switching out a Meatball, I basically panic sacrifice Azumarill. But let's be honest, without huge power, it's basically only useful for HMs. I send in the King, and Gyarados tries to go for Waterfall straight into my Water Absorb. This gives me a free turn to go for Yawn before Gyarados misses Giga Impact, and I hit for some chip damage with Ice Beam. Gyarados then falls asleep, and even though the King can't deal any good damage, I really can't swap anybody else in here since everybody's at too low health or cripplingly weak to Earthquake. After a few turns of dealing pretty pathetic damage with Ice Beam to get Gyarados below half, it wakes up and hits me with Earthquake, which does about a third. And just as I was contemplating exactly what to do after Cyrus heals up to full, I managed to get a freeze. This is huge, since I can now swap Sustrumming back in and heal all the way back up to full with a couple of recovers. Gyarados then thaws out, but oddly goes for Giga Impact, which actually kind of helps me out. My Ice Beam at the end of the turn doesn't do enough to take Gyarados out. In fact, Cyrus would heal the next turn if not for the fact that Gyarados has to recharge after going for Giga Impact, thus giving me a perfect opportunity to take it out. Honchkrow comes out next, so I swap out and send it Vaporeon. And just like with B-Barrel, I'm in for a rude awakening, since Drill Peck does way over half. It isn't even a critical hit, and I really should have swapped in Empoleon immediately. I get Heat Waved after the Drill Peck on the switch, which actually takes Ikea down below half before I can take Honchkrow out with a Specs-boosted Ice Beam. Cyrus then sends in Weavile, and because I'm locked into Ice Beam with Specs, I swap out into Vaporeon. Sadly, the fake out on the switch and the Ice Punch the following turn is enough to take down the Evolution. Sorry it had to end this way, buddy. Now I can send it back in Ikea, who actually resists all of Weavile's moves. Steel's just an absolutely busted type before Gen 6, and because I swapped out, I can now switch up my moves and go for a Flash Cannon to take out Weavile. Finally, this only leaves us with Crobat, but locked into Flash Cannon, there's really nothing Ikea can do, so I swap out into Sustrumming. I got just enough health so I could survive a crit Air Slash here before I swap back out into Ikea, expecting a poison move. Crobat hits me for 16 damage with an Air Slash, and I flinch. I then got just enough HP to survive another Air Slash. After a second flinch, we're in pretty big trouble. At this point, the entire team and hit myself in confusion. But they don't call the King for no reason. Quagsire connects with an Ice Beam, dealing a slightly disappointing amount of damage as Crobat falls asleep at the end of the turn. I then get another quick Claw proc and amazingly break through confusion to land a second Ice Beam in a row, which takes Crobat into the red. Cyrus then heals up with a Full Restore as the King incredibly hits a third through confusion in a row, but the Yawn never actually takes effect since the King snaps out of confusion, firing off an Ice Beam before Crobat gets to move and landing the second freeze of the fight. Because of freeze, I can freely hit 2 more Ice Beams in a row, not taking any damage whatsoever, meaning all 4 of my remaining Pokemon survive. That's why he's the King, ladies and gentlemen, what can I say?
With the most cards, Janet found exactly what she was looking for on Auto Trader. Finding what she's looking for.
With a third of my team decimated, I need to pick up some new Pokemon, starting with Barboach on Route 212. This is mostly so I have a backup plan to switch to if I can't take on Volkner with Quagsire alone. However, this really doesn't end up being a problem, and I completely understand why Volkner's such a depressing dude. I mean, I'd be pretty depressed if my entire existence was just getting bodied by Earthquake over and over again. With our sights now set on a Pokemon League, I pick up my final encounter on the way there on Route 224. Tentacruel is both fast and strong, making it an excellent addition to the team. And thus we've assembled the crew, starting with Ikea the Empoleon running Surf, Ice Beam, Flash Cannon, and Grass Knot. Second is Meatball, the simple V-Barrel with Waterfall, Return, Curse, and Amnesia. Quagsire the King with Earthquake, Waterfall, Ice Beam, and Yawn. Surströmming with Surf, Ice Beam, Recover, and Toxic. Semla the Whiscash with Earthquake, Waterfall, Ice Beam, and Rock Slide. And finally, Taxus the Tentacruel with Surf, Sludge Bomb, Ice Beam, and Giga Drain. In the early fights, we have a big level advantage since the level cap is Lucian's highest level Pokemon. This means my Wise Glasses Tentacruel can easily outspeed Yanmega and take it out with a single Ice Beam, no problem. Heracross comes out second, and I kind of foolishly stay in here going for Surf, which does a bit over half. Even with the level advantage, Tentacruel's physical defense isn't that good, and I was still dead to crit here despite being 6 levels higher. In hindsight, I really should have swapped in Quagsire, but I defeat Heracross with a second Surf. Vespiquen comes out third, so I swap out into Specs and Empoleon as it goes for Defend Order to boost its defense and special defense. A Specs Ice Beam does great damage even after the special defense boost, but it doesn't look like I can take the KO after it boosts up again. However, Empoleon decides to not waste any time by just getting a crit and taking it out immediately. Scizor comes out fourth, but locked into Ice Beam, my is not doing any good, so I swap out into Semla. I take an X-Scissor on the switch, and after the second X-Scissor, I'm left pretty low. I at least deal half with Earthquake before I'm forced to switch out, sending in Quagsire. The same exact thing happens here where I get taken low by a couple of X-Scissors before getting to use my move and taking out Scizor with Earthquake. Now, even though we have a massive advantage against Raytheon with Earthquake here, we're at too low health to stay in, so I swap out into Ikea to tank the resisted X-Scissor. This is once again a display of exactly how broken the Steel type is, since Raytheon has no way to hit us for anything but resisted damage. We don't have any super effective moves to hit back with, but Choice Spec Surf deals a ton of damage, and after taking a third X-Scissor, Ikea finishes off the fight with another Spec Surf. A pretty manageable fight for our water types, but the two next Elite Four members only get easier from here. Bertha, the Master of Ground types, has a crippling weakness to water, which is just about the only thing we have in abundance of. She does lead with a Whiscash, which isn't weak to water, but because Taxus learns Giga Drain, we can easily take it out with a quad-effective hit. Hippowdon then comes in to set up the Sand, which raises the special defense of all rock types by 50%. Unfortunately, both the rock types take 400% damage from water moves, so it won't exactly save her. Hippowdon is actually her only Pokemon we don't hit for 4 times damage since we have Ice Beam for Gliscor. Then there's her 2 rock types, Golem and Rhyperior, which, as I said, just get completely wrecked by water moves. 5 Pokemon, 5 turns to win. Doesn't get better than that. After Bertha, there's Flint, who's kind of in the same boat, since he's also cripplingly weak to water. Except in this case, the strategy's actually even simpler. Unlike against Bertha, where we actually had to switch up moves, all of Flint's Pokemon are weak to water, so we can simply slap Choice Specs onto Taxus and watch as he outspeeds every single one of Flint's Pokemon and takes them out in one hit. Sorry, Flint, but you never had a chance in a water-type run. This is where things really start to get scary. Lucian has a ton of great coverage, and if we make it to Cynthia, I'm not sure we'll have an intact team. Because if Mr. Mime has Thunderbolt, I lead with Semla, and oddly Mr. Mime goes for Light Screen, which makes my Earthquake deal a lot more damage than it would, but you kind of just have to stay and then watch Semla go down. From here, we have to just pray as I send in Empoleon, and Alakazam actually hits its Focus Fist, but switching in anything else would also just be a sap. Somehow, Empoleon actually survives, and ironically, if Mr. Mime hadn't set up Light Screen, this Surf would be a KO. With only 2 HP remaining, Alakazam is going for a random move here, but I take the chance and go into Taxes as Alakazam goes for Energy Ball. If that would have been Psychic, it would have been a bad day at the tax office. With Light Screen now expired, I can then easily take out Alakazam with a Surf. Third out is Espeon, and since I'm not confident Taxes can take it out in one hit, I definitely need to switch since I for sure get one-shot by Psychic. Surströmming takes a ton of damage from Psychic, but not quite half, meaning I can survive a second one and fire off a Surf. This only chips Espeon down a bit, and having to switch, I really wish Empoleon had more HP. This is yet another instance where Steel just resists every single move that Espeon has, but that doesn't really do you any good if you only have 2 hit points left. Sadly, this means I'm going to sacrifice the king, so thank God this isn't chess. With Quagsire's noble sacrifice, Axis can come in and finish off Espeon with a Surf. Fourth out is Bronzong, a very strange mixed set with Psychic and Gyro Ball that likes to set up with Calm Mind, and if it's a setup more Lucian wants, then that's exactly what he'll get. With a simple ability, a Pokemon gets double the stat boosts, meaning Meatball's Amnesia sets me up to +4 special defense. After Bronzong hits me with a Psychic, I set up with Curse, which lowers my speed by 2 and increases attack and defense by 2. Having this ability means Meatball is actually extremely efficient at setting up stats. And after only 3 turns, we've got 12 boosts. Sure, we're now slower than Bronzong because of Curse, and we take a bit more damage from the second Psychic after it's set up another Combine, but we get most of that health back from a Citrus Berry anyway, and since Bronzong never boosted its defense, a +4 stat waterfall is easily enough to knock it out from full HP. Besides, against Lucian's final Pokemon, the speed drop doesn't matter since Gallade would outspeed Meatball anyway. Leaf Blade is very scary since if we get crit, it's all over. But Meatball keeps overperforming and once again saves the day. At +4 defense, we easily survive the non-crit and take Gallade out with a +4 stab return.
I agree. Yeah, that makes so much sense. What are you doing outside? In the flip of the wrist, healing. This is not good. I'm not.
And while that means we beat the Elite Four, we now only have 4 Pokemon going into the final fight versus Cynthia. Half of our team is weak to Garchomp's Earthquake, and a quarter of our team is a freaking female. There's no real great way to execute this. There are some Pokemon we're going to need to fight some of hers, but generally, we're at a pretty hefty disadvantage here. Spiritomb is another one of the now countless examples of Pokemon that can only hit Steel type for resisted damage, meaning I only need to take about 1/6 of Idea's health before taking Spiritomb out with a second Surf. Unfortunately, this immediately bakes in Garchomp, and anything I switch into instantly gets KO'd or 2-hit KO'd by Earthquake. Trading Pokemon 1-for-1 like this is not a way that I can win. So I'll have to make sure sacrificing my starter was worth it. Now with only half a team left, I send in Taxons who can outspeed Garchomp to hit it with thought-effective Ice Beam. With Garchomp down, Cynthia sends in Togekiss. I send another super effective Ice Beam, which looks like it's a 2-hit KO. Cynthia then goes for Shockwave, which seems kind of weak for a champion, but it actually does some pretty decent damage. Then despite my first Ice Beam taking Togekiss into the yellow, my second doesn't get the KO, but it does get the freeze. This causes Cynthia to use a full restore, and I get her back down to about half with another Ice Beam. Just like last time, a second Ice Beam isn't quite enough, so I have to take another Shockwave before I can finish the job. As Cynthia sends in Roserade, we have the same amount of Pokemon left. And because Roserade is one of the premier threats on our team, I can't afford to switch out, so I just send one final Ice Beam, taking it below half, before allowing Taxus to go down to an extra Sensory. This means we're once again down a Pokemon, and both of our remaining Mons are slower than Roserade. I'm at least thankful this thing has Energy Ball instead of Giga Drain, since it would just be gaining all of its health back. Even so, we take a ton of damage from Energy Ball and don't even get back above half after a Citrus Berry. I then get to launch an Ice. Beam, which is just enough to take Roserade out. Down to just 2 Pokemon of her own, Cynthia sends out Lucario. and if this Stone Edge crits, it's all over. Thankfully, we managed to survive at 15 HP, giving me the chance to recover and get all the way back up above half. Sadly, this still doesn't get us out of crit range, so Lucario gets another chance and misses out on the crit. I keep getting more and more HP back from recover, but the longer we stall, the higher the chance we get crit. A third Stone Edge connects, and we are still in range, but Lucario misses out on the crit once again. Even after a third recover, we're still in range of a crit, but this time Lucario misses. This allows us to recover all the way back up to full, meaning even if Lucario crits the Stone Edge, we survive and are able to recover back. With the final Stone Edge PP used up, I feel pretty good about getting all the way back up to full HP with another recover. With Lucario now going for other moves that deal way less damage. If my Milotic dies, the run dies. And Cynthia heals up with a full restore after the second serve, I make sure to go for recover to get most of my health back, and after getting hit by another Ore Sphere, which takes me to about half, I go for another serve. Once again, I'm getting dangerously close to being crit and taken out, so I have to start recovering up again to get to full HP. All of Lucario's moves are at least doing about the same amount of damage, so I can very easily predict when I need to go for recover. Whenever Lucario goes for Shadow Ball, I really start holding my breath, because one special defense drop, and it's also basically over. Finally, my battle with Lucario ends when I end up getting the critical hit that Lucario was fishing for. Speaking of fishing, our final opponent is a Milotic mirror match. Immediately, I end up getting up 3 Toxic as Milotic tries to get me with Mirror Coat. I then get nailed by a Dragon Pulse, but I don't really have any good moves to fire back with, so I just try to get damage with Surf. As I outspeed with my next Surf, I'm pretty sure that means Milotic's going for Mirror Coat, but with one Pokemon still on the back, I just need as much damage as possible. I don't let Mirror Coat dissuade me from doing as much damage as I can, going for another Surf, even though it means Sustrumming goes down. I'm sorry what I said. You were worth every second of fishing and poppin' bacon, and I want to thank you and all of our fallen comrades for helping and allowing me and the Chosen One Meatball to beat a Pokemon Platinum Hardcore Nuzlocke using only water types. And without using Gyarados, playing through Platinum with only water types was a wild ride. It was pretty awesome to showcase exactly how powerful the Choice Specs and Polion combo is, but in the end, you're probably always better off picking Infernape, who actually uses the Choice Specs pretty well too. But hey, let me know what challenge I should be doing next down in the comments below, and until we see each other next time, subscribe to Animal Boy, who's down in 3D, which is pretty lame if you ask me. Don't forget.
So there's some viral outbreak going off in Iran, and it's something about finding a file which contains, well, what I'm guessing is some form of a countermeasure.
Yeah, basically. We're an undercover agent who's going in solo to find the file and to get the hell out. Needless to say, our boy Kyle Crane is not prepared for what's to come.
No shit. I mean, we've already got a warm welcome from the locals. They're even offering to fuck us up the moment we touch foreign soil. The fact it's got to take 3 of them to take us on speaks volumes. This faction is filled with certified pussies.
Damn right. Reminds me of those Antifa retards. Oh shit.
What do you mean, oh shit? What's happening?
Oh, you'll see soon enough.
Yo, what the fuck? Punch that bastard, Donald!
I can't, doofus. It's a cutscene.
Oh, thank God. We're saved! Wait a minute. We just got bitten. We're fucked!
Now's not the time to worry about that, Kim. Their main concern is getting the fuck out of there before they get ripped to shreds.
Fair point. So you're telling me a singular gunshot draws these bastards?
Yeah, basically. Firearms are nice to clear out zombies. The only downside is it attracts virus.
Virals? What are those?
The fast fuckers. Pretty much all these that are chasing us right now.
God damn. The dudes volunteered to be a part of a mukbang video. I salute you, good sir.
The dude's not even dead